You attracted major projects like Market Basket, the FBI headquarters, and over 2,000 housing units, including One North. Can you walk us through those projects? And in particular, tell us what was there before, right? So what was sitting in these sites? Were they benefiting anyone? And how do they benefit us today?
So let's go back to 1995 in the old Mystic Mall. So the Mystic Mall came about as a result of the fire of 1973, and a suburban shopping mall had been built there. In the late 70s, early 80s, it was very active, but then it started to lose some steam as other shopping areas around the region opened up. By the late 80s, early 90s, the Mystic Mall was a ghost town. In fact, the most successful store in the middle 90s in the old Mystic Mall wasn't the big Kmart or Stewart's department store. It was a little smoke shop that sold lottery tickets. Okay. Chelsea had the distinction of having in that store, in the middle of the mall, the highest grossing lottery seller in the entire state. That's the only thing that people went to the mall for, was scratch tickets. So when I came on as planning and development director, Guy Sandegate, the city manager, said, we need to do something about the mall. Fidel, I was in office for a week and I got a call from the company that owned the mall. A guy from New York, Mr. Samuels, was going to come up and talk about the redevelopment of the mall. Wow. I've been doing the planning job for a week. I said, this is easy. What am I going to do in the second week? I'm going to have this all solved. So he came up as an old guy, white hair, gray pinstripe suit, and he says, son, let me tell you what we're going to do. We're going to knock down the mall and we're going to build a self-storage facility. A self-storage facility. I said to Mr. Samuels, tell me, how does that benefit the city? He said, well, there won't be a lot of jobs, there'll be a little bit of tax revenue, but the mall is really bad. It's not serving anyone, and self-storage is a need in the area. My lesson there was that sometimes what you say no to is as important as what you say yes to, because right at that moment I said to him, no, Mr. Samuels, Chelsea is not looking for the Mystic Mall to be converted to a self-storage facility. We have higher expectations for this retail site, a large parcel in the middle of our commercial district. We fought a little bit about it. About a year later, that company went bankrupt. The property was foreclosed upon, and the Market Basket people who had a smaller store, it was about 60,000 square feet, bought that site and came in to talk to us about its redevelopment. They wanted to build a big supermarket, the supermarket that we have now. Their first proposal was like 90,000 square feet, and then it was up to 110. I think the store's 120,000 square feet now. And they wanted to put a Home Depot there. Again, I said to them, nah, that's not what we're looking for. We're not looking for a bunch of contractors who are going to be rushing in and out of the place. We need something that is going to welcome shoppers and be the center of retail activity in the commercial district. So we fought for a couple of years about that. And finally, they capitulated and came back and said, yeah, we understand what your vision is and we want to do it. And so as a result, we have Starbucks, we have TJ Maxx, we have Five Guys and great restaurants there, and the highest performing Market Basket. So again, sometimes it's important to say no to things. I said no to things twice, had fights with people twice before we finally got what we wanted there. I think about, I'll tell you one other quick story, the Urban Renewal District. We see hotels down there, we see the FBI building there. On the FBI parcel you mentioned, what was there was a used auto parts store. It was a junkyard. What was there was an old building. Every time there was a windstorm, a piece of the building would blow off, and that stored used auto parts. We didn't see any development happening down there. And the most important thing, Fidel, was along the highway, there were 60,000 cars a day that were driving through Chelsea, like I do every day. And what they were seeing was junk cars, and they were seeing buildings that were falling apart. So we knew we needed to do an urban renewal district. Where the DoubleTree Inn is right now, there was a car, Fidel, that had been on the lot for so long that a tree actually grew up through the car. And that was the poster child for us doing urban renewal. And so across the street where One North was a 4-story old industrial building that was falling apart. The last use that we found in the building was a fight club. Somebody was actually doing unauthorized fight clubs on Friday nights there. And so we came and acquired all the property. We used eminent domain in negotiation to acquire all the property, raised everything, and what you have now is several hotels and great residential options and the FBI headquarters, and really led to the rebirth of the entire community. There's story after story about that the need to transform the old and find ways to making it new while things were kind of stuck in nowhere. And what we were talking about earlier, if you're not growing, you're falling behind. We were falling behind rapidly. The buildings were deteriorating. There were no jobs being created. We led the 14 years I was here, we led Gateway Cities and the most jobs created So through growth came property taxes, through growth came jobs, through growth came new residents, through growth came additional development opportunities, and as a result, we're all proud of what we see down in Chelsea. Just one last story if I could, and then I'm going to stop. When we broke ground on what was then the Wyndham Hotel, it's now the DoubleTree, I remember it was a rainy, sad day. I mean, it was a torrential downpour. We had a tent up for the groundbreaking, and like 250 people showed up for the groundbreaking. They couldn't believe that we were finally getting a first-class hotel. Mind you, we had a hotel, but you rented by the hour, rooms by the hour, not by the night, right? 250 people in driving rain came, and I remember one woman, literally, I'm not making this up, sat in the front row and she was crying. And I went up to her after the ceremony. I said, you know, Jay Ash, why are you crying? I said, everything all right? And she says, I just can't believe this is happening in my community. That's what we were trying to do.